Dear friends, today we will reflect on a word very special to the Ignatian education, the Jesuit education, and I think that is applicable to all progressive good education. The word I'm talking about is cura personalis. Cura personalis. Cura personalis means, if it is translated from Latin to English, it will sound like this. That is the care of the person. Care of the total person, the whole person. We believe that every human being is endowed with many giftedness, talents, many faculties are there in each individual. We have intellect, we have emotional faculties, we have spiritual, psychological, social, affective, so many. And all these experiences, these faculties have to be developed in our education. That's why cura personalis is important. In fact, it suggests an individualized attention to the needs of the person. It also a distinct respect for his or her unique circumstances and concerns, and an appropriate appreciation for his or her particular gifts and insights. Each individual is gifted by God with enormous talents and giftedness and graces. We must develop it, nurture it, develop it, and make it so efficacious for the society. Cura personalis was highlighted in a document entitled The Characteristics of Jesuit Education, published by the International Commission on the Apostolate of Jesuit Education in Rome. In this document, it talks about the characteristics of Jesuit education as the follows. I quote, teachers and administrators, both Jesuits and others, are more than academic guides. Note this point. Every teacher must be more than an academic guide. They are involved in the lives of students, taking a personal interest in the intellectual, affective, moral, spiritual and social development of every student. They are ready to listen to their cares and concerns about the meaning of life, to share their joys and sorrows, to help them with personal growth and interpersonal relationships. They try to live in a way that offers an example to the students. That's why in Jesuit education it talks about every teacher must be a role model for the students. Okay? Now, so this cura personalis is a concern for the individual person, is the crust of Ignatian education. That's called the basis of the characteristics of education, Jesuit education. Very often we talk about this idea of cura personalis for our students. Care for all aspects who they are now, who they were, and who they are going to become. That means the past, present and the future must be taken into consideration in education. Yet somehow, in the busy schedule, the day-to-day activities, we forget this aspect sometimes. Sometimes intentionally also, we leave out these aspects. This shows up in many ways. For example, the rush to conversations. There is no depth in conversations. Checking of technology constantly. People are very busy with the technology, the gadgets. Answering emails and hours of engagement with internet. Exclamations of how busy our schedules are, filled with back and forth meetings, and 1,000 other things, spoken and unspoken. When we operate in these ways, we miserably fail to live in a way that offers an example of a life lived with self-care of our students. When we are too busy, we neglect the priorities, and priority is our children. The support and care we provide is mutually exclusive to students, but also to the care we give each other and ourselves as human beings is very, very significant. Saint Ignatius was so concerned about the Jesuits taking care of their own well-being that he emphasized in the constitutions of the society, the foundational document which guides the Jesuits. He wrote one thing 500 years ago. Imagine, due consideration and prudent care should be employed toward persevering in their life, in their vocation, and they must be kept tested in the houses or colleges, and toward enabling them to make progress both in spirit and in virtues along the path of the divine service in such a manner that there is also proper care for the health and bodily strength necessary for the labor in the Lord's vineyard. Those days his language was more of a spiritual, and he says we need to take care of this person's ability, his studies, his every activities, but do not forget his health, bodily and mental health. In fact, the letter from Ignatius to his secretary, he wrote like this: even though situations sometimes occur where an extra exertion is unavoidable, he should nevertheless not deprive himself of sleep by spending the night in prayer or staying up much of this night, as those close to him report to us he is doing. What holds for sleep applies also to diet and so on and so forth. Meticulously he talks about the enough bodily rest needed for the individual. My dear teachers, my dear friends, the work we do with our students is highly engaging. All of you know. It's so important. It's so busy, tiring, and at times emotional. We strive to do our jobs to the best of our ability. To do that, we need to keep ourselves physically, socially, emotionally, and spiritually healthy in a way that empowers us to bring our best selves for our students and colleagues day after day. Our work can consume us. Too much of workaholism can consume us. We must make conscious, active choice to not let it. We need to have priorities in our life. As colleagues in our education, as teachers, we may hold a shared commitment to call ourselves and each other to self-care. How can we strive to find new and creative ways to model personal and professional balance? That's a question all the teachers must ask at this juncture. We are called to be as inventive as possible to identify, to cultivate, and maintain a culture of balance. How do we create lives that model this balance and serves as example for our students of well-lived lives, rich with an investment in proper care of self, so that we can give proper care to others? Once we care ourselves, only we can care other people also. In fact, we are all doing these basic characteristics of our education. Now, the important point for us when we look at Jesuit education, we stand for these values. Number one, pursuit of excellence. In the light of these characteristics of Jesuit education, we need to stand for pursuit of excellence. That's why we say the 4 C's. One is competent. Competent means excellence. Competent, conscience, compassion, and commitment are the 4 C's of Jesuit education. The visibility of education must be expressed in these 4 elements. 4 C's. So therefore the first one is pursuit of excellence. Second one is the respect for the world, its history and mystery. We must respect this world. Learning from experience is another important thing. We learn from our own experience. That's very important to study from our own experiences, the past experiences. Contemplative vision formed by hope. We cannot be hopeless people. We cannot be pessimists. We must be optimists. We must have hope. Even in this pandemic period, we must create hope for our children, hope for our colleagues, hope for our families. We must act with hope. We also must care for the development of personal potential. Each one is endowed with the graces I told. We must help that to maximize, to more effective, to more efficacious. And therefore, the 5th point is critical thinking and effective communication is a must. We must not simply gulp anything comes from somewhere. We need to have critical thinking about this. And we need to also, the 7th point is this, appreciation of things both great and small. Don't look for only great things to happen or great things. Appreciate even a small things. Somebody does a small thing, Bible says, Jesus gives a beautiful example. The rich people have put up a lot of money in the temple as offering, and there is a widow who is a very, very poor. She comes in ragged clothes and she puts one coin, small little coin, maybe 50 paise or 1 rupee. She puts in that box, and Jesus is waiting, watching, and he tells his disciples, look at that woman. She has contributed much more than all others, because all others have given from their wealth. They have plenty of wealth and they give one part of it. But this woman gave the entire wealth. That is, the attitude is important, the contribution, not the amount. So therefore, appreciate even a small thing. Appreciate a child who does something very, very unique and effective. Appreciate. Don't look for the only number 1 in the class all the time. No. That is not our way of education. And the 9th point is commitment to service. We need to, for example, look at this world today. Coronavirus has taught us one thing. That is, what we need is service. Look at the health situation. Look at the economic situation. Look at the migrant workers and their sufferings. And we saw people in numerous ways coming out and helping people. That is a service mindedness is important. Look at our frontliners, the doctors, the nurses, the health workers, the police. We need to appreciate them. They are service people. And teaching is also service. We need to encourage that, and we must have that commitment to service. Not only I am holding and earning everything and I am keeping myself. Too much of self-centeredness and selfishness is not part of our education. We need to have commitment to service, because we believe we are creating men and women for others, not for oneself, for the society. And then we also stand for special concern for the poor and the oppressed, the marginalized, people who are deprived of their rights and dignity. We need to stand with them. That's our education. And our faith must lead us to justice, to do justice. You minus justice, there is no faith. Any religion, for that matter, must unite people, give them justice, give them what is due to them. That is faith. And therefore, linking faith with justice is very, very important. And the next point is international and global perspective. We are asking, today, these days, we are teaching global citizenship program all over the world. Because coronavirus, again, in the light of the coronavirus, we can reflect. Coronavirus has taught us one thing, that we are all one. The entire humanity is one. But unfortunately, even in the midst of this terrible crisis, when that teaches us to be one, we are divided. We have seen in Lebanon, we have seen in China and Taiwan, we have seen in China and India, we have seen in India and Nepal, we have seen in the black and white in the United States and many other borders. This is terrible. We need to teach the global perspective. We are one. Humanity is one. Borders we make. But then, actually we are all one. And finally, a discerning mindset has to be created. A discerning mindset. I need to see what is good, what is right. Every time there is a deeper reflection going on in me, and then I choose the right. And therefore, you will be able to, if you do that, you will be able to ask two questions. Where am I going? Quadis. Where is my direction? How am I moving? That's why the examine and the examination of conscience, etc. are so important for us to give the true direction. And finally, we must find God in all things, even in the midst of this pandemic, even in the midst of this darkness, even in the midst of this seemingly everything bad. We must see God is at work. Find the goodness, a smile of the child, maybe a tender green leaves coming up, maybe in the nature a beautiful flower, maybe the chirping of small tiny birds, maybe a butterfly. It will give us the God experience. Are you able to see God experience in everything that is happening in and around you? And when we are able to do all these points, when we stand for all these points, I am sure that we take care of the cura personalis, the care of the individual. And that is what the characteristics of Jesuit education tells, and that is what the cura personalis is meant for. I am sure at this pandemic period, it is wise that we take up this cura personalis in its seriousness and see what way we can be a caring teacher, a caring parent, a caring elder in the society for our children's welfare and their well-being and their total, wholesome, integral, all-round development. Thank you very much, and God bless you.